Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a question that's, well, as big as the universe itself. Why do the laws of physics seem so perfectly, so exquisitely tuned for life to exist? Is it a sign of some grand design, or is there another, even bigger explanation?
Yeah, it's a puzzle that has led a lot of people to see the hand of a designer. But today, we're going to explore a truly mind-bending alternative, an idea that comes straight from the cutting edge of physics. It suggests we don't need a miracle, just a whole lot more universes. All right, here's our game plan for today. We'll start by digging into this fine-tuning puzzle. Then we'll introduce the multiverse as a possible answer, check out the real science behind it, tackle the big objections people have, and finally, wrap up with what this all means for how we see ourselves in the cosmos.
Okay, so what is this puzzle, really? Well, physicists have a name for it: cosmic fine-tuning. And the reason they call it that is because our universe seems to be balanced on an impossibly thin knife's edge.
What that means is this: the fundamental numbers that govern our universe, things like the strength of gravity or the charge of an electron, are set to incredibly precise values. If you were to nudge any of them, just a tiny, tiny fraction of a percent, poof, the whole thing falls apart. No stars, no planets, not even atoms, and definitely no us.
So, this incredible cosmic coincidence basically leaves us at a fork in the road with two main explanations. Path 1, it was designed this way on purpose. Path 2, our universe isn't the only one. It's just one lucky winner in a huge cosmic lottery, a member of a vast collection of universes, a multiverse.
So let's really dig into this multiverse idea. How in the world does it explain our seemingly tailor-made universe? Well, the key idea here is something called the Anthropic Principle, and trust me, it's way more straightforward than it sounds.
The core of it is this: of course we find ourselves in a universe that can support life. We couldn't possibly exist to observe a universe that couldn't support life, right? It's not luck, it's what's called a selection effect. Think of it like this: you can only be born on a planet with a breathable atmosphere. You shouldn't be surprised to find yourself on one.
This is where John Leslie's famous firing squad analogy comes in, and it's brilliant. Imagine you're a prisoner. You're facing a dozen expert marksmen. They all fire, and they all miss. You're alive. So what do you think? Wow, I am unbelievably lucky? No way. Your first thought should be, okay, what's really going on here? Either this was a setup, it was designed for me to survive, or they're running this execution over and over and over again, and you just happen to be in the one instance where, by a complete fluke, everyone missed. And of course, you're only around to think about it in the scenario where you survive.
Now, this is really important. The multiverse isn't just some clever thought experiment cooked up to solve this one problem. It actually pops out, naturally, from our most successful and well-tested theories about the universe.
The science here really stands on two main pillars. First, you've got cosmic inflation. That's our best theory for what happened in the very first fraction of a second after the Big Bang. Think of it as the universe-making factory. Then you have string theory, which is our leading contender for a theory of everything. String theory provides the blueprints, explaining why all those universes the factory churns out could be different from each other.
So according to one of the pioneers of this idea, physicist Andre Linde, once inflation gets going, it's basically impossible to stop. It becomes this runaway process. Little patches of space stop inflating and cool down to become bubble universes, like ours. But the space between the bubbles, it just keeps on inflating, forever, spawning an endless, fractal-like ocean of new universes. It's an eternal universe-making machine.
Okay, so the factory is always running, but what is it making? That's where string theory steps in. It predicts what's called the string theory landscape, which is just a fancy way of saying there's a huge number of possible ways the laws of physics can turn out. How huge? Well, the common estimate is something like 10 to the power of 500. That's a 1 followed by 500 zeros. Just try to wrap your head around that. Each one of those is a blueprint for a different universe with its own unique physics.
So you put those two ideas together, and what you get is a picture of a grand cosmic lottery. Eternal inflation is the machine, constantly printing out tickets. And the string theory landscape provides all the different numbers, 10 to the 500 of them. With that many chances, it's not just possible that a universe like ours would pop up, it's practically inevitable. Sooner or later, some universe was bound to hit the life-permitting jackpot.
Now, you can probably guess, an idea this wild has its fair share of critics, so let's not shy away from that. We're going to tackle the three biggest objections head on.
First up, there's a big logical objection. People say that believing in a multiverse because our universe is special is like committing something called the inverse gambler's fallacy. Okay, what's that? It's like if you walk into a casino, see a guy roll a pair of sixes, and you immediately think, wow, that guy must have been rolling the dice for hours. That's a bad inference, right? One lucky roll doesn't prove there were lots of failed rolls before it. But is that really the right way to think about our universe?
Well, the philosopher P.J. McGrath came up with a much better analogy. The key is we're not just random observers. Imagine a casino where you're not even allowed to walk in the door until an incredibly rare 1 in a trillion jackpot has been hit. Then one day you get a call. Come on in. You walk in and see the jackpot lights flashing. In that situation, is it rational to think lots of games were played? Absolutely. The fact that you were called in is itself powerful evidence that many, many attempts were made before they finally hit the jackpot.
Okay, objection number 2, and this is the one you hear all the time. Isn't the multiverse unscientific? If we can never see these other universes, if we can never test for them directly, how is this any different from philosophy or just making stuff up? Is it even science?
It's a fair question, but proponents say it's not totally untestable. First off, we can test the mechanism that makes the multiverse, cosmic inflation. Inflation theory makes very specific predictions about the afterglow of the Big Bang, and those predictions have been confirmed. It's passed every test we've thrown at it. Second, it can make statistical predictions about our universe. The physicist Steven Weinberg did exactly this. He used multiverse logic to predict the value of dark energy, and he got it right years before it was measured. That's a huge win. And finally, yeah, some scientists are looking for direct evidence. Things like bruises in the cosmic background radiation that might be scars from a collision with another bubble universe.
And that brings us to the third big objection, Occam's razor. The idea that the simplest explanation is usually the best one. So what's simpler? One single, all-powerful designer? Or a literally infinite number of unseeable universes? Seems like an easy choice, right? Well, not so fast. Proponents of the multiverse would argue that in science, simple doesn't mean the fewest number of things. It means the fewest number of rules or laws. Think about it. The multiverse hypothesis starts with a few simple, elegant physical laws, and from those, a huge, complex reality emerges naturally. The design hypothesis, on the other hand, starts with one entity, sure, but it's an entity of infinite complexity, whose motives and origins are a complete mystery. So which one is really simpler?
So after all that, where do we stand? Well, if the multiverse is real, it completely changes how we think about our place in the universe. It's a fundamental shift in our cosmic perspective. Suddenly, what looked like an unbelievable miracle, our universe being just right for us, becomes a statistical certainty. If you roll the cosmic dice enough times, eventually you're going to get the winning combination. Our existence goes from being an impossible stroke of luck to just an expected outcome. We're no longer the center of a unique masterpiece. We're just living on one of the winning tickets from a massive cosmic lottery.
The great Stephen Hawking put it perfectly. The multiverse gives us a powerful, natural way to explain the apparent fine-tuning of everything. It means our universe wasn't specially made for us. It's just we live in one of the universes that worked. We have to, otherwise we wouldn't be here talking about it.
So, is our universe a one-of-a-kind miracle? Or is it a statistical inevitability in a vast, sprawling cosmic landscape? Look, this debate is nowhere near settled. But what the multiverse idea shows us is that maybe we don't need to look outside of science for an answer. The answer might just be more science and a whole lot more universes than we ever dared to imagine.